Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and thinkers. The L3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Memphis, South Florida. And today's date is Wednesday, March 27, 2019. Yes, and I'm at Stash 109, located at 109 Southwest 2nd Avenue in the heart of the Himmershey District of Fort Lauderdale, adjacent with Revolution Live and America's Backyard. Yeah, so I read the summarized version from William Barr in the Mueller report, and of course they said there's no collision and there's no charges or anything like that. There's not enough evidence. Very interesting when you got folks that hate the president so much they all wig out, have a cow. We need the full report now. Well, I'm not gonna argue, but yeah, I'd like to see everyone should take a look at it in due time. It can happen. All you gotta do is Freedom of Information Act under the Justice Department. Just give them a call. Don't be shy. Don't get too demanding, but use some finesse. And a lot of folks out there, like all these mainstream garbage media, start complaining about it. And of course, the Church of Hollywood quacks putting their 2 cents in, which is nothing more than awful, stupid, lousy. I'd rather take a dump, flush my waste in the toilet, and find that more intriguing than their pretentious hot air rhetoric. Yes, I know I digress at times, but that's okay. You're talking to a man who's not even a Trump worshiper, kiss the floor he walks on, anything like that. It's totally absurd. On this whole Russian collision thing, myself, I never bought it when they first came out. I'm glad I did too. You know, and I'm not the only one. There's many others out there are not Trump worshipers either. They didn't even buy it. You can even talk to some folks who have socialist views, believe it or not. I chat with some of them, okay, and at least they see the bigger picture, and I give them kudos for that. However, when it comes to Israel, the government themselves, not the people, because there's beautiful people in that country, and they don't even like what's going on within their own government. AIPAC. Criticize AIPAC. They consider you anti-Semitic. They try to use the whole exploitation about the Holocaust and so forth, which is I find that totally blasphemous too. And it's nice that a bunch of Democrats in Congress hasn't attended the meeting or the convention, which is good. And you talk to people I'm not even too crazy about as well. George Washington, on his farewell address in September 1796, he warned us about these factions, such as political parties and foreign influences, can endanger our young republic. And even if you look at Fellows Papers 2 through 5, authored by John Jay, said the same thing about foreign influences. I don't really care what people think. It's just the truth. We shouldn't be told by others what to do. If not, we shouldn't have separated from England if we had that mindset. Something to think about, right? Absolutely. So, it's one of those views, current events. Always question, how accurate is the information out there? And so, enough of that. We'll talk a couple topics here. Looks like my computer's been crashing. It doesn't have too much stuff in there. Good grief. I'm like a digital pack rat. Just pack rat in general, even including documents as well. I even drove my friends crazy, but I got it. So I got to do a little cleaning, restructuring, reorganizing. But I'm getting good at it. I'm not a high-tech geek or anything like that, but I enjoy it. So I'm going to talk a couple of subjects here. And this one came from the BobLivingstonLetter.com under alerts. The title is What is Q? There are two governments in America. There's the government you see and the government you don't see. The government you see is the politicians and the judges. They are actors. Their job is to give the illusion that government functions on behalf of the people. and that there is a rule of law and a constitution that's followed. This largely just political theater. It is an illusion. The government you don't see, what I call the deep state, and many others call it the shadow government. The existence of the deep state is no secret to astute followers of political events, but its existence has been missed by most people. Indiana Republican Senator William Jenner spoke on it in a speech in 1954. He said, "Today the path to total dictatorship in the U.S. can be laid by strictly legal means, unseen and unheard by Congress, the President, or the people. Outwardly, we have a constitutional government. We have operating within our government and political system, a well-organized political action group in this country, determined to destroy our Constitution and establish a one-party state." The important point to remember about this group is not its ideology, but its organization. It operates secretly, silently, continuously to transform our government. This group is answerable neither to the President, the Congress, nor the courts. It is practically irremovable. Deep state is what President Dwight Eisenhower was warning us about in his famous farewell address on January 17, 1961. It is more than just a military-industrial complex and scientific technological elite. Deep state is an organism. It's highly complex, which parts separate and function, but mutually dependent and integrated. It is not formal. It may function legally or illegally within the law or above the law. It is never identified as to true name and purpose. It has no ethnic, social, legal, or national responsibilities or restrictions. The subterfuge of an organism is its doctrine or its system of indoctrination. It is a spiritual phenomenon. It is characterized by its consistency of words, phrases, and concepts, which mold the public mind into conformity in areas of religion, politics, and economics. An organism is a myth or fiction created by historic power to forge or force public policy and conformity of thoughts. Public policy and conformity are instruments of state or government power. Hey, you want to verify that? Read Edward Bernays' book called Propaganda that came out in 1928. The deep state is a spy apparatus that scarfs up data on everyone all around the world and meddles in supposed free and fair elections and overthrows regimes for its own purposes. It is a regulatory bureaucracy that writes laws and regulation on such a scope that every American commits multiple felonies through the normal course of a day, so that the state can expropriate their land and their wealth. It is a police state that enforces these and other regulations and laws passed legally and illegally and extra-constitutionally, and which steals the people's liberty and livelihood through asset forfeiture. So all you folks out there, for example, who supports red flag law, you are pro-asset forfeiture. Period. It is the Council of Foreign Relations and related groups that put presidential candidates in both parties and populate the government in the departments of state, treasury, and defense, regardless of the party of the president, and establishes policy which is rubber stamped by the elected class. It is the military-industrial complex which recognizes no international borders and makes war on nations that have not attacked us and pose us no harm beyond idle threat. It is the banksters who create money out of thin air to pay for the wars and to use it to rape and pillage the resources of foreign countries as readily as America. It is the House of Rothschild and the House of Rockefeller and global elitists who annually meet for Bilderberg. It is the Federal Reserve which prints money that it uses is often by being passed through extra governmental agencies like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, etc., used to foment wars and expand the American empire. The deep state is aided and abetted by the mainstream media, MSM, aka the legacy media, which disseminates its propaganda. Most of the major MSM reporters pundits are paid by the deep state, revealed in government hearings on CIA Operation Mockingbird, and in a book by German journalist Dr. Udo Jürgens. In addition to the legitimate paychecks from the news organizations, talking head experts and sources the media provide are typically affiliated with various think tanks funded by cronies, foundations, large corporations, and NGOs that are part of the deep state. This is particularly true of those promoting war. The media rarely, if ever, reveal these ties. All this results in the mass brainwash of the American people. Then along came Donald Trump. Trump's election, which was a surprise to the establishment, has disrupted the status quo in Washington, D.C. Of that, there can be no doubt. The GOP establishment, or GOP, E, and the political left have developed an irrational hatred and obsession with him since he upset the apple cart in the corridors of power. There are many who believe that Trump was sent to dismantle the deep state. The belief, this even though he has surrounded himself with deep state actors, as my colleague Brandon Smith has pointed out on many occasions. Whether Trump is a string puller or a puppet remains to be seen. Trump's efforts to dismantle the deep state and restore the country are said to be aided by person or persons known as QAnon, or simply Q. Until recently, the mainstream media have largely ignored Q, and when Q is reported on the main MSM, have dismissed it as a conspiracy theory and the fantasies of a fringe group of crazies who believe the elite are a cabal of criminals and pedophiles, as if such a thing is impossible to comprehend. One would think from the MSM's reaction to Q's claims of a secret pedophile ring that no elected officials have been connected or associated with pedophilia. See, for starters, Representative Dennis Hatzert, Representative Mark Foley, Representative Anthony Weiner, Senator Robert Menendez, Representative Mel Reynolds, Bill Clinton, and the Lolita Express. Abnormal sexual proclivities is one of the signs of psychopathy, and enough of the establishment politicians have been caught up in the circles of suspected and convicted sexual predators to know that is no conspiracy to recognize that the elite consort with criminals and pedophiles, excusing behavior if not downright participating themselves. Q is largely a web-based phenomenon. He or they are known to drop cryptic messages on the internet that is followers. We will refer to Q with the pronoun it for simplicity, decode on social media. The messages are released anonymously or done in a way that is untraceable. The messages contain intelligence on current or future events that seems to come deep within the halls of superpower. The subjects of Q's messages are usually events being ignored, glossed over, or outright lied about by the MSM. Q's cryptic messages are the subject of much discussion on social media platforms, where people both who believe Q is working to help Trump and those who believe it is come and that must be debunked try to decipher the messages. Long before even the alternative media had hashed out the details that outlined the attempted deep state coup against Trump using American intelligence, the courts, big tech, and financial apparatus. Q had detailed how Hillary Clinton's opposition research compiled by Fusion GPS has been passed on to the Barack Obama Department of Justice and used to wiretap Trump associates. The MSM still does not report this, choosing instead of focus on the possibility of finding some sort of Trump-Russia collusion to bring down Trump. Even the release of Robert Mueller's report exonerating Trump has not stopped MSN from advancing a collusion narrative. Q also explains Trump actions, believing, if not outright stating, that Trump has a grand scheme to bring down the deep state and all his actions are focused to that end. Example, Q has stated that the removal of Janine Pirro's show from the Fox News lineup and the hiring of a Democrat operative, Donna Brazile, is a Trump-backed up move to attract more leftists to Fox in order to soften up the playing field as the Mueller report. Q believes Mueller is working for Trump, not against him, to destroy the deep state. It is released, and more deep state damaging information is released. That Q is a growing phenomenon is evident by the MSN's recent uptick in coverage of his intel drops. The New York Times, the Washington Post, The Week, Daily Beast, Time Magazine, and Fox have all within the past weeks run with stories highlighting Q and his predictions and analysis. Trump's election has clearly damaged deep state. When you look at the deep state actors that have resigned in disgrace or have been fired or outed as overtly working to overturn the American election, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, John Brennan, Peter Strzok, Yali Yates, and Bruce Orr among them, you can see the damage Trump has done within halls of power, particularly the entrenched bureaucracy of intelligence community. Did Q have a hand on this? The Mueller report is now done. What we've learned is that only crime Trump committed was defeating Hillary Clinton. It was the Clinton campaign, aided and abetted by the Barack Obama administration, the Clinton-friendly intelligence apparatus, and the complicit propaganda media to conspire with Russians to influence the election. Some of us recognize this from the beginning. And that is absolutely true. And I know I did one a while back about Cullen. John Cullen did a story on Q and said it was a total fraud. One thing I'm not going to do is leave all your eggs in one basket. Don't rely on Q as a whole. We all got to start doing our homework, friends. Get rid of that garbage media. Get that out of your sight. Don't even listen to these clowns. You got to laugh at them. The truth of the matter is they need you more than you need them. Now we got the technology in our fingertips. You can do a podcast. You can, or look online. Remember, a lot of stuff has to be transparent, correct? Study the Constitution, all that as well. Learn about the New World Order. In due time, you see all patterns. Then you can share with everybody else. And what you can do is call these individuals out in your districts. That's how you got to see things. Always observe responsibly. That's essential. Yeah, I see a lot of stuff coming down. A lot of folks are desperate. If you think only one party is going to save this country, forget about it. Start from the ground up, not top down. Yeah, so the QAnon, whatever you want to call it, is like another anonymous or, to an extent. But how accurate is it? Gotta make our own judgments on that. But don't just fall for the cult. Just observe the information, and you can judge for yourselves. So, does Q give people hope? Yeah. I can say it's inspiring. Everyone could be the Mavericks, the rebels, and counter all means that's considered tyranny. And remember the case, Marbury versus Madison. Justice Marshall made a statement. Any law repugnant to the Constitution is void. So, it can be countered. You can't complain, but you gotta do. Those are the facts. So when I see here guys like Q, examine it thoroughly and go a little further. Don't just rely on one particular entity, because that could hurt you as well. But you know what? Let it be. I'm enjoying every minute of it. A lot of cloak and daggering, folks. One thing I like about it, all these parasites, psychic vampires, are being exposed. Alright, we'll do one more here. This came from knowwhatwhy.org. Came out early yesterday. It says here, by Travis Dunn, Second Amendment Sanctuaries. Officials refuse to enforce new gun laws. As it reads here, as gun control advocates see more of their proposed policies become law, another group with a decidedly different aim is also gaining momentum. Its loose network of local officials who are refusing to enforce the new laws, which include measures to require universal background checks or ban assault weapons or temporarily remove firearms for those deemed danger to themselves or others. The name for this new tactic is nullification, and the localities that are practicing it are calling themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries, a tactic that, ironically, was partly inspired by efforts to establish immigration and marijuana sanctuaries. In some cases, county sheriffs have publicly said they will not enforce new laws. This has happened at least 6 states: Nevada, New Mexico, Washington, Colorado, Oregon, and Illinois. In Washington, sheriffs in more than half of the counties have refused to enforce new gun regulations. One, Bob Songer of Chilliwack County, has gone even further, saying he might prevent state and federal police from enforcing them. In Nevada, one sheriff who recently refused to enforce a new gun law wrote a letter to the governor likening the measure to Hitler's gun policies. I know the people in that assembly are offended. Well, you know what? The truth hurts. In another place, such as Will County, Colorado, county or town councils have passed resolutions to find new gun restrictions, and gun rights advocates in some of these states, such as New Mexico, are also pushing for ballot initiatives designed to overturn new gun laws. All you gotta do is read your state constitution, folks. It's very self-explanatory. In most cases, county officials adopting these tactics serve in rural, mainly Republican areas of states run by Democrats. Kevin Starrett of the Oregon Firearms Federation told Who What Why that these laws are being passed by urban liberals who have the numbers. This is done with no regard for gun owners and, in fact, an outright disdain for rural residents, he wrote in an email. Many advocates of these new tactics have the absolutist view of an American's right to gun ownership. That definitely applies to Starr's group, which bills itself as Oregon's only no-compromise gun rights organization. And what specific gun laws his organization objects to? Starrett replied, not to sound snarky, but I don't mean to, but we object to all of them. Yeah? Can't blame him for that. A brief history of nullification. These nullification efforts are not new. What is new is the increasing number of local officials adopting these tactics. Some previous efforts dated back to 2012 to 2013, when the massacres in Newtown, Connecticut, and Aurora, Colorado prompted lawmakers in those states and others to push for stricter gun control measures. In response to such efforts, Sheriff John Cook of Will County, Colorado, refused to enforce new restrictions passed in 2013, and 2 sheriffs in the state of New York did the same in 2012. But there's some videos on here as well. You should check it out, folks. But it was another case that got prominent national attention. In 2013, Nick Finch, former sheriff of Liberty County, Florida, refused to prosecute Floyd Parrish, a man Finch's own deputy had arrested for carrying a concealed pistol without a permit. Finch was suspended from office without pay by then-Governor Rick Scott and prosecuted on charges of official misconduct, allegedly tampering with records related to Parrish's arrest. Although Finch was eventually acquitted of these charges, his career as sheriff was short-lived. Parrish, the man Finch released from custody, will go on to be charged with murder in 2016. Currently awaiting trial, Parrish has claimed self-defense under the state stand your ground law. You have to look at that up, folks. The murder charge dealt a fatal blow to Finch's re-election. He lost, only getting 6% of the votes, and now works as a truck driver. Well, sometimes you gotta look at this, my friends. The police aren't obligated to protect an individual. Okay? There's no such thing as he's no psychic either. So, if this is the case, right now, Parrish is on his lap allegedly. He claims it's self-defense. So we have to look at all these areas and take it from there. That murder. So since Richard Mack, the godfather of Second Amendment sanctuaries, one key figure in the publicity of the Finch case was Richard Mack, a former sheriff of Graham County, Arizona, and the author from My Cold Dead Fingers: Why America Needs Guns. Soon after, Mack stepped forward to voiced his support for Finch. Alex Jones of InfoWars took up his conspiratorial bullhorn, and Finch quickly became a cause celebrity of the alt-right and far-right media. Good grief. Mac stands at the center of this growing nullification movement at the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, which is acronym CSPOA, an organization Mac founded and leads, that has provided training seminars for more than 450 current and former sheriffs around the country. Its membership has included former Sheriff Joe Aparo of Maricopa County, Arizona, and David Clark of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, as well as many, if not most, of the sheriffs across the country currently refusing to enforce new gun restrictions. Like Starlet in Oregon, Mac starts from a completely uncompromised understanding of the Second Amendment, which sums up gun control in America is against the law. I don't need anybody to interpret for me what shall not be infringed, he told Who, What, and Why. Mac came to a national prominence in 1994 when, as sheriff, he sued the federal government over the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993 and won. That case was combined with a similar challenge by Montana sheriff and backed up by legal from the NRA, which was Sheriff Prince, by the way, took the issue with the Brady Law provision that required background checks on gun purchasers. That provision was struck down in 1997 on the basis of the 10th Amendment. And there's a 5-4 decision written by Justice Antonio Scalia. What's interesting about that, because when you look at that, one thing the author forgot to write in here, I'm just going to continue on. Yeah, although there's a victory, it was a minor one, it came moot on the FBI's computerized National Instant Background Check went online in 1998. Mac found a national platform. What's interesting about that, because even his own words, if you actually read the case, Prince versus Mac, the main objective was to that Brady Law is mainly like the states were conscripted to honor the law, comply with the law with their own monies. So that was the big challenge. So right there, you gotta look at these areas. You know, I might just add the Prince case on there, Prince versus Mac case on this in my footnotes. I know I've done it before, and he did. And the Judge Rowe, late Judge Rowe, did use the Federalist Papers 46 by James Madison on federal overreach. So I'm gonna, I'll add that to the footnotes so you can read the case yourself. So it was always a minor, but it was a big step on 10th Amendment. Okay, while Mac will go on to run unsuccessfully for several offices, his great success has been the creation of CSPOA. Mac says if he could do it all over again, he wouldn't have bothered suing the federal government. Instead, he told Who, What, Why he'd do what he now advised the sheriffs all over the country to do. Simply refuse to enforce the law. Mac doesn't see this act of non-enforcement as usual. Police have never enforced all laws. This is an absolutely ridiculous notion, he said. It's called a police discretion. Mac has been a popular speaker, not only for the NRA, but also for the John Birch Society, as well as various Tea Party organizations. And he previously served on the board of the Oath Keepers, a group of current formerly serving military, police, and first responders. They pledge allegiance to the U.S. Constitution, not the politicians, and they vow not to obey unconstitutional orders. Well, like I said before, all you gotta do is read that case, Madison versus Marbury versus Madison. Any law repugnant to the Constitution is void. Mac said he was deeply influenced by a speech he attended in 1984, delivered by W. Cleon Skousen, author of A Naked Communist, a 1950 book alleging an international communist conspiracy for world domination. Very New World Order, right? In 2015, Center for Public Integrity Investigation noted similarities between the philosophy of Mac's movement and that of the Posse Comitatus, a movement which came to prominence in the 1970s and 80s, as well as the Sovereign Citizen movement, which the FBI considers a domestic terrorist group. Oklahoma bomber Terry Nichols was a member. You're going to hear all that stuff anyway. Posse Comitatus partly inspired by the white power writings of Reverend William Potter Gale of the Christian Identity movement, has been called explicitly racist and anti-Semitic by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The SPLC also points out one specific ideological connection between Mac and these groups, Posse Comitatus in Latin for power of the country, and the group that bears its name, hold at the highest authority of government in our republic, instead is invested at the county level. Thus, according to this thinking, county sheriffs are the highest law enforcement authorities in the country. It's like what Mac and many Second Amendment sanctuary proponents believed as well. Yeah, they're called constitutional sheriffs. We want sheriffs to be, so you're saying that these sheriffs are members of Homeland Security, they deserve the top prize, right? Come on. Mac, however, disavows any connection with Posse Comitatus or the sovereign citizen movement. He said he never heard of William Goddard Gale. Mac repeatedly emphasized in an interview with No Who What Why that he and his organization are neither racist nor violent. Nor, on the contrary, the CSPOA aims to eliminate racism and prevent violence, he said. But he did acknowledge that the members of Posse Comitatus or Sovereign Citizen Group could very well attend CSPOA functions or seminars, since these meetings are open to anyone. However, one area of potential ideological overlap immigration is the apparent on the CUPA's own website, which asserts without providing evidence that immigrants are not assimilating into our culture as they once did, which results in devastating consequences culturally and economically. This CSPOA position statement goes on to recommend that the National Guard and regular military troops be stationed on our southern borders immediately to close off the flood, among the litany of other hardline immigration enforcement suggestions. Interesting about that, because when you start seeing what's going on with these exodus, since this is happening worldwide, not just in the United States, part of the club of their own platform. So you got to always see those things as well, my friends. That's all you can do is do a little homework, be your own cue on it, all right? Bluster or change in America, one country at a time. Robert Spitzer, a political science professor at the State University of New York at Cortland, and an expert of history of American gun laws, told Who What Why that the general idea of gun law nullification had been floating around for a while, but this current movement takes it one step further by crossing the line of legality and picking and choosing which laws they want to enforce. I want to keep going here. Quite frankly, it's not their call. It's abuse of their authority, I would say, political position, he said. The only direct historical analogy, he said, that the way that sheriffs handled law enforcement in the western states during the 19th century, semi-autonomously. I think that kind of stuff mostly disappeared by the start of the 20th century, he said. Spitzer attributed the growth of the nullification movement to politics and to the fact that many county sheriffs are elected to office. Many of these sheriffs are playing too deeply conservative constituencies, which leads to them to take these largely symbolic positions, he said. Spitzer pointed out to the example of New York State, which 2 counties refused in 2012 to enforce new gun restrictions, whereas state police, who are non-political state employees, who wrote a brief in support of the restrictions. Yet, the much current rhetoric about gun law nullification is a bluster by and large. Spitzer says since he hasn't yet seen these local officials getting into direct conflict with state or federal authorities, Attorney General of Washington, however, has warned the refuseniks in his state about potential consequences of their actions. In an open letter, Attorney General Bob Ferguson told these sheriffs that they could be held liable if there is a sale or transfer of a firearm to a dangerous individual prohibited from possessing a firearm, and the individual uses that firearm to do harm. Okay, so it's cute how they make these things. It's like, oh, well, you're going to trap yourself. If something happens, you are partially responsible. Mac, meanwhile, continues his evangelism for his reading of the Second Amendment and county sovereignty. He's optimistic about the future. In the past, the CSPOA was mainly concerned about increasing its membership. These days, he said, is focused on changing behavior and changing America one county at a time. And it's pretty cool. So the whole thing is, it's a big challenge here. And remember, a lot of these servants, when they get sworn in, if you just read the state constitutions, They have an oath to protect and defend both the U.S. and their state constitution. Many state constitutions have natural, inherited rights, natural-born rights, enumerated rights, property rights, etc. And many of them support the right of privacy. Like they try to do the ones in Florida, what these semi-automatic ban, they want registration, all that. Hey, that violates Article 1, Section 23 of our state constitution, right of privacy. Anti-Roe versus Wade. Something to think about, folks. You could throw that right back at them. They hate it. They love dishing it out, but when you give them the taste of real medicine, they go crazy. So, I like nullification because those are our basic rights, fundamental rights, no privileges. It's none of their damn business what you have. If you violate others, that's a whole different ballgame. Government in Latin means control of the mind. They want us to trust them. I say never, ever do it. I'm not saying vindication, but fidelity. We have obligations, my friends, to put them in check. Truth, justice, and the goody two-shoes way don't get you anywhere. Eternal vigilance with honor can. It won't be perfect, but we could be a lot better off. And that's it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondences with decorum. Plus, I will leave these on my footnotes on my Spreaker page so you can check it out yourselves, alright? Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. May your guardian spirits be with you.